Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. First of all, thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all the viewers that have been viewing. If you're not a subscriber, please do hit that subscribe button. And for any of the videos that you watch of mine, please do give it the big thumbs up. That also helps. So today I managed to get some free time from my side projects and my work that I do as a freelancer. And I've seen this comment which has sort of lined up perfectly because I was thinking of making a tutorial today. I know I've missed, I think, the past 2 weeks. I've just been really stumped with work and stuff, so I've not been able to make any videos. But this gentleman over here called Nermeen Ref, I believe. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He's basically messaged about 8 hours ago, can you make a liquid simulation tutorial without plugins? Well, I like to take these challenges on. I did mess about with Cinema 4D prior, and I have sort of created something to show you. As you can see, this cube here was created with RealFlow, so I won't be showing you how to do that. Let's get straight to it. This tab here is just as a representation to show the water working. You don't need this tab. Obviously, according to your project, you guys do whatever you think is best for your project. So getting straight into it, we've got this tab. We need an emitter. And just before I start this, I just want to quickly mention that you will need the Cinema 4D 2023. A minimum of the version would be the 2023, because we are going to be using Pyro to create somewhat of a water effect, and anything prior to 2023 you will not be able to follow along with this. There is other methods and ways of creating somewhat fake water prior to this, which I can go into if needed be, but for this tutorial's sake we will be using the native Pyro in Cinema 4D. So what we want to do is we want to create some sort of emitter. In this case we're going to create a sphere. I always like to keep it hexahedron. I think it looks a bit more prettier. I don't think it has a purpose of it being any sort of a way for this particular an effect. What I also like to do is I try to keep it inside of the faucet. That way it moves a bit more naturally as it reacts. It reacts to the collider with the Pyro. Sorry. So what I do now is I'm going to add a collider to both of these. Not to the emitter. Sorry. Let me just call this emitter, just so that I can remember what I am doing. So the best way to create a collider is you can right click simulation and click collider, which is right here, or if you've got a custom shelf tool, you can use that, and you can also access the Pyro here, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to click on emitter and create that into a Pyro object. It's going to give us two objects, which is going to be the Pyro and the tag on the emitter object. And just for my sort of sanity, I'm going to just call this scene and put away what I don't need to see. Now when I press play, magic, there you go, water tutorial completed. So what we want to do now is, as you can see, it's going the complete opposite way. It's actually firing in. That's because heat rises and density is going to rise with it. So we need to change a few options. What we can do is, because we're only going to be using with density, I'm going to turn off temperature. So once I turn that off, it's pretty much going to do nothing. Smoke is just going to be sort of static. Then what I'm also going to do is turn off surface emitter. That will prevent it from emitting on the outside, and it will emit on the volume itself, which is what I want. Feel free to play with that. Completely up to you on your the way you want to art direct it. I'm gonna put this in a bit more. Let me just make sure it's not colliding, because sometimes you can get some sort of weirdness when something is colliding off the bat. Okay, so that's that done. I want to go back into Pyro object and go into Pyro scene. Go on this sort of tick to bring down more options. I want to go then into pyro, general. This is the density buoyancy. We want to make this higher because the density is what's going to be coming down. As you can see, it's slowly coming down. Now what's happening here is you're thinking what's going on here. So the smoke is coming and it's disappearing, and that is because of the dissipation. The dissipation is how much of a certain value or strength is being sort of taken away constantly from the source to make it go basically from 1, which would be the emitter, to at this point it seems here, which would be 0. So we want to go into dissipation, and as you see, once I start turning this down, you'll start seeing more smoke, but still it'll still be dissipating. But if I go into absolute dissipation and I turn this down, or I turn it completely off, depending on the way you want it to look, it will stop disappearing altogether. Also, I want to quickly mention that what I'm going to teach you here is the base. So it's going to give you the fundamentals on how to create it. It's then your choice to sort of dial in these settings and get it right, because if I want to create something like this, I would have to spend about an hour or 2 on it, maybe more, maybe less, but yeah, it's obviously upon the person's choice. Me creating it in a set way will not make your life any easier, because you might want to change it and have a completely different look. But I digress. I just need to basically show you the base on how to create it, and then you guys can go ahead and create some water fun. So now that we've got this dialed in, I can go into turbulence. Turbulence is also causing this sort of effect. Is it turbulence, or do we have disturbance? I think it is turbulence. The disturbance, I believe, is a Houdini thing. I think it is, yes, I think it is. I'm using more and more Houdini, so I'm sort of forgetting what it is in the Cinema 4D version. But let's go back into it. So turbulence, let's turn that down. That will create less of these, there we go, less of these sort of curls inside of the smoke, and more of this sort of smoke sort of either fighting the air or just falling down a bit more gracefully. We want to then click back on the emitter tag, which is the pyro tag, and then we can go into velocity, and where it says set to movement, we can change that to set absolute velocity, change the strength to about 350, and change the direction to about 100. I think, is it 100 or is it a minus 100? There we go, minus 100. And we're getting a bit more of this smoke shooting down in the minus Y direction. As you can see, this little gizmo here, Y is up, Z is the depth, and X is sort of the left or the right direction. Once we've got this, don't worry too much about the simulation being a bit slow and stuff, because you can actually bake it, and then once it's baked down, you can speed it up, which is not a problem. Let's see what else you can mess about with. There's loads of settings here. In advanced settings, you have advection mode, you have pressure solver. So this solver right now is using the multi-grid full cycle. You've got the Gauss Seidel or Seidel, which is a completely different solver. As you can see, it will be slightly different. And then you've got the preconditioned conjugate gradient. That's a mouthful. Which will act completely different also. So depending on the type of look you're going for, one might be suited more than the other, but for this I'll use the multi-grid full cycle, and it's slowly getting there. And then what we can do is you can also add some external forces if you like. You can go to sort of rip this tab up, and I believe adding more gravity does work. I'm not 100% sure. Let me just add a couple of zeros to it. Yeah, it does. So you can use this. You can make it slightly faster if you like. There we go. Or you could actually use the gravity in project settings, which is in simulation and scene, and there would be the normal gravity. And as you can see, we've got somewhat more of this water look. If I pause it here, what I can do is I can grab this pyro output and put it inside of a volume builder, and then put the volume mesher on top of the volume builder, and that should hopefully, if we reduce the size to this, get me the mesh. It's not doing that, sorry, I've just completely forgot. That's because if you click on the Pyro object and go into object, you need to have the density turned on, so it's not actually caching it in the GPU, it's putting it into the scene. And as you can see, we're getting a bit of what we needed, which is the mesh. And what we can do then is dial it in from the voxel side, so you can reduce the voxel side to get more detail, or what you can do is add a smooth, but you have to be a bit careful with the smooth because the smooth is quite strong. You can maybe change some smooth operators, mean curvature or median, and use these to dial in what you need. What I'll quickly show you is how I bake it. So what I do is I click on the Pyro output, click on cache, and press cache scene. It's going to load up where do I want to cache it, and I want to cache it into another folder. Just give me 1 second while I get to my directory. Once you get the directory sorted, I had to obviously load this off the screen because I've got some projects that I've not meant to be sort of looked at the moment because I've signed an NDA. But anyway, let's go to save, and now it's going to start saving and caching the simulation. It should do it relatively quick. Just bear with me while it's going through this. Right, okay. Once this is done, I'll even do a little quick render just to show you how it looks. The emitter could have been slightly bigger. As you can see, we've got a little gap there, but for this example it will work. Now we don't need the gravity, we don't even need the Pyro object, we don't need the emitter because everything's baked. Let's go into volume, go into volume loader, and then click on this here. Give me 1 second whilst I quickly go to the directory again. So I've loaded it back into the scene, and as you can see, once I press play, there is the smoke. Oh, thought it almost crashed then. And the smoke is loading, and now it'll play real time. The first initial time it might chug a bit, and the reason for that is I think it's caching it all into the scene, so it takes a bit longer. But now we've got it here, I can stick it back into the volume builder. When I press play, there is a mesh behind there. If I hide this original loader, and there is a mesh. Now you're thinking the smoke is a lot thicker than what this is showing, and the way you can sort that out is if you go into volume measure and see where it says this voxel range threshold, that will basically fill in the voxels from where the source is. So if I sort of increase it, as you can see, it's filling in them gaps, and if I press play now, we've got this sort of look. Now I promised you a mini render, so I'm going to quickly do that in Arnold now. But this is the base of how to create it. You guys would take some time, dial in your settings, get it according to your project. But this will then interact with anything. Obviously, before baking, you will need to create other objects, make it collide with whatever, and then add it. Otherwise, you will not be able to make it interact with anything when it's baked. So let's do a quick little render. I'll just sort of frame it here. Let's go to Arnold. I'll throw in a camera quickly and get all these settings in. Let me go into my camera. Let's say focal length of about 55. Let's create a nice edgy type look. We'll get the tap in as well nicely. There we go. I'm going to create two materials for this really quickly. The first material will be for the tap, and the second material, which I can just sort of copy and paste, will be for the water. Let's stick that one on the water, and let's quickly create these as standard surface shader. I believe this one is for the water, so we can turn that to glass for now. And in transmission, we can add that tiny bit of hue of blue. And then in the other shader, which is the tap, I can quickly add another standard. Ooh, what's going on here? Standard surface, and I can change that to metal. I'm going to turn up the roughness a bit because it'll be way too shiny. Let's press play on that. Let me throw in my HDRI and my sky, like so. There we go. Maybe we can have it a bit more shiny. And then obviously according to your needs, you add your roughness map, your bump map, displacement map, or whatever type of dirt or grime or whatever it is that you want to add. For this as well, I'm just going to quickly remove the camera because I don't want the HDRI to be seen in the back. I'm also going to use the Grayscale Gorilla, these sort of backdrops, and we'll just use that for now. And let me go into here. Let's move this up. Let's rotate this a bit. Let's create it a lot bigger because the water needs to go down. So like so. It's just to give it more of a backdrop so you can see something on the other side. I'm going to rotate this sunlight, or the HDRI in this sense. There we go. And once we press play, we've got this sort of coming out. Let it go past the safe scene. There we go. And as you can see, we've created some lovely water. So I hope that answers your question and your request, my friend. I really do appreciate you commenting down there and asking me to make you guys a particular video. I'm sure this will help many others out there on whoever's searching on YouTube. But that is a quick and easy way of creating it. Like I said, this is a base model. You would have to add on to it to get the water looking right. But for a 10-minute job, it's not too bad. Let me just turn up the camera AA, which will make it a lot sort of less pixelated, less noise. But yeah, there you go, guys. So like I said again, thank you for commenting. Please do comment on these videos. It does really give me an indication on which direction I should head my tutorials in. I am also, like I said, planning to do some Houdini videos as well. I just need a bit of time. I've just been stumped with work and stuff. And as always, guys, thank you for subscribing. If you're newly watching this, please do subscribe and leave a comment down below on what I should maybe do next, or what you guys need help with that I could possibly create a tutorial on. So as always, guys, please like, share and subscribe. And thank you once again for watching. Thank you. Bye.